Hi, this is Tisch Aitken, and it is Friday, July 8th, 2022, and I'm doing a quick check-in. There's been a lot going on, and like many of you, I'm having a little trouble keeping up with everything, and Mercury, which is the planet of communication, recently changed signs on July 4th or July 5th, depending on your time zone, and that was the very same day that Mars, the planet of action and passion, changed signs. Both were transiting in their dignity prior to that. Mercury was transiting in the mutable air sign of Gemini, which it rules, and it was doing so on and off starting on April 30th, 2022, which was the day of the partial solar eclipse. Mercury does love being a Gemini. A lot of information and tales, but it also retrograded right in the middle of the eclipse season on May 10th, 2022. And it retrograded at 4 degrees and 50 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. And that was the day that Jupiter, the grand benefic, the biggest planet, also changed signs. Well, it changed signs rather not, and it entered the cardinal fire sign of Aries, and there's been a lot of fire in the sky. And Mars was transiting in Aries. It entered Aries on May 24th, which unfortunately was the day of the awful school shooting in Texas, and there have been a lot of shootings since Jupiter and Mars entered the sign of Aries. There's been a lot of anger. Now Mars is no longer transiting in Aries, but what's interesting leading up right now, I'm a little all over the map because Mercury is out of bounds. It is out of bounds from July 6th through July 13th. It's transiting in Cancer, which is very, pardon me, it's much more emotional. It's not as cerebral. I'm not saying Cancer is not cerebral, but it's more emotionally based when Mercury is transiting in Cancer than when it's in Gemini. So it's very emotional thinking. And when you have it out of bounds, it makes it even more emotional. And what's interesting, on the weekend of July 4th, Mercury squared Neptune. And Neptune stationed retrograde on June 28th, which was the day of the new moon, and the new moon in Cancer. And you know, you feel the buildup 5 days before and 5 days after. And Neptune retrograded at 25 degrees of the mutable water sign of Pisces. That's the sign it rules, and it can make you very hazed out, very emotional, very tired, sometimes confused, or there can be disappointment. A lot of people have had very strong dreams and intuition. And over the weekend, Mercury squared Neptune right before Mercury changed signs, when it was still transiting in Gemini. Well, I neglected to say that that also is a preview for when Mars retrogrades later in the fall. Mars is retrograding exactly where Neptune stationed retrograde, at the same degree, but also where Mercury was, you know, right before it left Gemini, it squared Neptune right before Neptune, you know, right after Neptune station. And I think that tone of how we can come up with good ideas and really, you know, with Mars retrogrades in Gemini, it's going to do so from October 30th at 25 degrees of the mutable air sign of Gemini. And Mars in Gemini is sometimes has trouble making decisions. There are a lot of choices, but it's good for taking action through networking and communication and learning and teaching. That's a great way to use Mars in Gemini. But when Mars retrogrades, it's hard to launch things. It will retrograde from October 30th through January 12th of next year. And that's not a time that's ideal for launching a new business or a new goal. It's more for reflecting on how you can take action to improve those areas, because Mars only retrogrades once every 2 years, and it's going to set off that Neptune energy from the Neptune station at the end of June. And right now, with Mercury out of bounds, I almost feel like the Neptune station is still happening. I wanted to share, somebody left a comment, and I agree with this, and I think going forward, this is something I'm going to need to do. In my monthly horoscopes, the person left me, I feel, helpful feedback in that I give all of the aspects and I go by sign, what happens each date, but then I kind of sound like the Rain Man of astrology. I'm like at 4:32 and 6:35, and I have to memorize all of these times. So it's a lot to ingest and memorize each month, but more importantly, I want it to flow when I speak. So what I'm going to do going forward, because all of us, and I think with Mercury out of bounds, I'm feeling very overwhelmed right now. Mercury squares Jupiter, the biggest planet, on July 9th at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So that's making Mercury out of bounds. When Mercury is out of bounds, it exceeds the sun's outer limits. And the sun, that's 23 degrees and 27 minutes north or south of the celestial equator. And that means that when a planet is out of bounds, it's not playing by the rules. So Mercury is all over the place, squaring Jupiter, the planet of expansion. And so for me, I decided in this that, again, I am not going to list the times of the aspects anymore when I go into detail in the monthly horoscope by sign. I will in my weekly updates when I'm sharing a few aspects here or there, because that's not as, as involved and in depth. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I will give you all of the dates for the aspects, how it translates for your sign or your rising sign. And then I will leave in the comments, below all of the times of days of the day of those aspects. So if I say there's an aspect on August 5th, I will list it below, and I will list it for each sign. I'm just going to copy and paste it, because those aspects will be the true, will be true for any sign. They just will fall in different areas of the chart for each person. So that's going to be my plan going forward, because I want to keep this going and the momentum, but I'm figuring out how to keep pace in a very difficult time. And obviously all of us are very burnt out. We've been dealing with this for a very long time, and next week is going to be an incredibly intense week, and I have to say that I will do more on that. I wanted to do a full moon video today, but I'm working on a computer that's dying, because my new computer, I'm having trouble with getting the technology to align with my my software for my camera. So that's Mercury out of bounds, acting wacky, and maybe saying to take a little bit of a break, and maybe a lot of us need to take a break. And so I wanted to share again that, next week we've got the second Pluto return of the United States, and I'm going to do a video on Monday, so I will talk more in depth when I'm more centered and get a little more rest. But that is going to occur when the Declaration of Independence was signed on July 4th, 1776. Pluto, the planet of death and transformation, was at 27 degrees of the cardinal Earth sign of Capricorn. And it takes approximately 248 years to transit. And the United States is obviously a young country. And so this is the first Pluto return of the United States. And the first hit was on February 22nd of 2020. Second hit is next week on July 12th, and this is a very intense cycle. None of us as individuals will ever live to see our Pluto return, because hopefully there's no invention in this new age of Aquarius that gets us to be 248 years, because I'm out if there is. But we do see it on the collective as a nation, if you live in the United States, and in the world, because this is, impacting other countries. We're not the only one, obviously, and I don't want to act like we are, but it's a big deal, and it's very dramatic, and there is a lot of tension in the United States, obviously, and in the world. And it's the day before the biggest full moon of the year, the closest to the Earth. There's going to be a full moon on July 13th at 21 degrees and 22 minutes of the cardinal Earth sign of Capricorn. That's a big deal, that second hit of Pluto affecting the United States, which is in a lot of turmoil. And the third and final hit of the Pluto return will be on December 28th of this year. And the after effects still linger because Pluto takes approximately 2 years to transit. So the full moon, the super moon on July 13th, 21 degrees and 22 minutes of Capricorn, that is just half a minute off from the world point, hitting everyone in the world, big leaders in the world, and each and every one of us. It also sets off the conjunction, that legendary Saturn-Pluto conjunction that occurred on January 12, 2020, that brought down many structures in our world permanently and brought permanent change and reconstruction that we're all working with in a time of chaos. And at the end of this month, we're also going to have a very rare alignment with Mars, the planet of action, passion, and war, Uranus, the planet of chaos, innovation, brilliance, and enlightenment, and the North Node of destiny, which is our collective destiny. That's a rare alignment. Uranus and the North Node meet up every 75 years. Then you've got Mars triggering that off. And the last time they met up in Taurus, I believe, was in 1885. I have to remember. There's so many things to remember, and Mercury is out of bounds. This is an intense month. Mars is in Taurus, which is slower. Mercury is in Cancer, which is more introverted and emotional. It's out of bounds until the 13th, so it's all over the map. The Sun forms a helpful aspect to Uranus, the planet of innovation, on Sunday, July 10th at 4:39 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, bringing a social and innovative tone to the weekend as well. But emotions are all over the place. Communication could be very emotionally based and out of whack. So just recognize it almost could feel like a Mercury retrograde. And so I wish you a lot of luck. And again, I'm operating in like a computer that's about to fall apart, literally. So I feel like that myself. And I bid you adieu. Thank you.